Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City, Eagles beat writer. And David, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
We appreciate having you on, and I'll get out first and foremost. I thought your column today was fantastic. I'll just tell the listeners that you had an article that everyone knows the story locally about the fallen trooper, but you took the other side and shed a little spotlight on the other man that was involved in that tragedy that took place on Route 55. Maybe you could tell us about your column today.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to have off yesterday. And then I thought about going up to the Eagles, and then when I passed the mile marker where the accident happened, I've been thinking for the last couple of days really about Lloyd Rudley and the fact that his story seemed to be getting lost in all the attention surrounding Trooper Williams. So I just wanted to take the time to let people know that, there were two people involved, and, they both had names, they both had reputations, they both left legacies, and I just wanted to do what I could to make sure that Mr. Rudley's story got out there. And I can't tell you how overwhelmed I've been with the responses of everybody. Just the fact that they appreciated that I went out of my way to paint a picture of a guy that normally the story might not have gotten told if I hadn't done it. So it was really humbling and really nice to hear from so many people about it.
That column is the Extra Points column. It appears Wednesdays and Sundays in the Press. We're visiting with Dave Weinberg, his Twitter handle, @PressACWeinberg. So we'll move on to the Eagles now, Dave, and talk about, I said to Scott Grayson earlier, I don't think I've ever seen so many Twitter pictures or post updates of an Eagles offensive lineman standing on the sidelines of practice in my life. Brandon Brooks apparently back at practice today, but it's not like there's any light shed on the situation. What's the latest on Brandon Brooks?
Well, actually, I just got done finished talking with Brandon, and he shocked almost everybody with how forthright and honest he was about the fact that he's dealing with an anxiety issue that, for whatever reason, it's mostly a mental thing where it's just this quest for perfection just overwhelms him eventually, and he gets physically ill from it. And so he's gone through all kinds of tests because he thought maybe he had an ulcer or some sort of stomach problem, but everything was cleared, and then he finally, wound up going to talk to somebody and receiving some medication in hopes of fixing the problem. And he had said that he's basically going to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he basically intimated that, he needs to go talk to a therapist about how to deal with, the pressures that come with playing in the NFL and the strive to continue to perform at a high level, which is that's a very real thing for players. They're only one bad or two bad plays away from getting benched or worse. So, that strive to be, at your absolute best on every play, that happens every week.
Dave, it seems like Brooks has had a pretty decent run here with the Eagles this season, but this is certainly something that's plaguing him. Is this something that you got the sense from talking to him that he thinks could affect the future of his career?
No, he was actually pretty adamant about the fact that he's pretty confident that he's going to be able to find a balance here to make sure that it doesn't affect his career. He wasn't ashamed of it. He wasn't really, I guess he's concerned, but he's not really scared about it. He seemed pretty sure that, with the right medication and the right treatment, he just has to learn. He was saying how he just has to learn to relax a little bit in the hours that come up, coming up to a game. He described it as he actually gets physically ill at 4 or 5 in the morning, and it's the thing and then he knows as soon as that happens, he knows he's not going to be able to practice or play. He said it just doesn't happen on Sundays. It's just the only time anybody knows about it because, he doesn't play, but it's just a 24-hour thing where he just gets so hyped up, I guess, with the expectations that are placed on him, and but he seems pretty confident that he's going to be able to find a way to deal with it and to go on to have a pretty successful career.
Okay, well, that's just one thing that's gone wrong on the offensive line. Working further down the line, I know Doug Pederson said today that with some of the injuries that Isaac Seumalo is going to work at right tackle, and he said that this is our 5th right tackle. Can you just kind of put into perspective how devastating that is for a team to have that kind of change so frequently week in and week out at a position on the offensive line?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's not just offensive line. You take any position and you have to go through like 3, 4, 5 guys. You're not going to be able to perform at your best level. And Seumalo hasn't played right tackle or tackle at all since probably the spring rookie camps maybe. He's been working almost exclusively at guard. But you go from Lane Johnson to Vaitai to Barber to Matt Tobin, who's now on IR. And now there's the very real prospect that, Isaac might be the guy out there. Although from talking to Alan Barber real quickly, he seemed like he's cautiously optimistic that he'll be able to go on Sunday, which would be a big boost for them. But, if you have that much turnover at any position, it's really going to affect it. You actually saw it the other day with long snapper, too.
Yeah, their tryouts on the sidelines. One more question about the offensive line, and this is Jason Peters.
Sure.
When you look at Jason Peters, are you hearing anything from him? We know he's at the back end of his career, but it seems like he's had a pretty decent season. Does it sound like he wants to be back next year to continue to try to take and hold down that left tackle spot?
Yeah, he hasn't given any indication that, his career was over or his career with the Eagles is over for that matter. The pre-snap penalties have obviously been a concern. I think he has 9 of them this year, which is the most in the NFL. But once the ball is snapped and he's in position, he's still playing at a pretty high level. I don't think he's not at his prime like he was a few years ago, but I still think he's better than most left tackles in the NFL. And I know that he's made it clear that he wants to keep playing for another 2, 3, 4 years, and I know that he wants to do that with the Eagles.
Dave Weinberg with us, Press of Atlantic City. You can find him on Twitter at PressACWeinberg, or listen to him here each Wednesday as we have our Wednesdays with Weinberg. Now, Dave, the running game, I know that if you're looking for the Eagles to have a lot of success, Baltimore #1 in stopping the run. But the big question, I think, for Eagles fans this week is who's going to be available to run the football?
Well, right now it's Ryan Matthews, Kenyon Barner, and Byron Marshall, who just got promoted from the practice squad. Darren Sproles is still going through the concussion protocol. Judging by the viciousness of that hit that he took, I'm not sure that he'd be able to come back in time on Sunday. But although he's a pretty tough guy, but concussions are so unpredictable, and you never know how long it's going to take a person. Wendell Smallwood, as everybody knows, is now on IR with a knee injury. So it's basically Matthews, Barner, and Byron Marshall, which probably doesn't conjure up a whole lot of optimism for Sunday.
When you talk about it certainly doesn't help, Dave, that the Ravens have the #1 run defense in the league. Does that give you any indication at all that Doug is even going to try to run the ball, or is Pederson going to look to air it out more with Wentz again this week?
I think he has to try to run it. He can't keep having Carson, attempting 50, 60 passes in a game because, as you mentioned before, the offensive line is so unpredictable and so unreliable. He's going to take another beating if they try to do that. So, come hell or high water, they have to try to establish some sort of running game just to take some pressure off of Carson because you can't expose him to that much contact, in a game, like I said, 50, 60 passes. That's just not realistic to expect him to hold up under that kind of. So they have to find a way to run the ball.
Dave Weinberg with us from the Press of Atlantic City. Well, Dave, you look at the situation where they go into Baltimore. They have a Sunday game with the Baltimore Ravens. But my biggest thing is, do you think the Eagles are going to win another game? My biggest question to you is, do you think the Eagles are going to win another game? And do they have a winnable game on their schedule?
I'm probably not the person to ask this because I think I'm like 4-9 or something on my Eagles predictions. And I just can't seem to get a read on the team. I really thought that they were going to beat the Redskins, judging by like the vibe that I got in the locker room. Now they seemed almost like resigned to be playing for next year. I know they obviously want to win out if they can. I think ESPN actually put their odds at like 5 million to 1 or something to get into the playoffs now. But they're kind of clinging to that hope that a playoff spot is still there. But I can't see them winning it until they win another game. I can't I can't pick them to do it. They've just been so disappointing and so inconsistent, and I definitely don't see them beating Baltimore. And the way the Giants and the Cowboys are playing now, I just can't see them beating them. Their only hope is if the Cowboys have everything locked up, and Jerry Jones or Jason Garrett or whoever decides to rest some players, maybe they can pull out a win on New Year's Day. But other than that, I think you're looking at a 5-11 season there.
I mentioned that Ravens' #1 rush defense. Asking Wentz to throw the ball 50 or 60 times, is that a bad formula for the Eagles?
That's the only way I guess they can win, but I don't think they can do it. They can't. Like I said, they can't expose him to that kind of punishment. There was even talk this week from other media outlets that maybe they'd be even better off like benching Wentz this week in order to prevent him from taking any more punishment against that Ravens defense. That's not unrealistic in my eyes. Wentz is your quarterback. You put him out there no matter what. But they have to find a way to keep some heat off him. It'd be really good if they can maybe get some quick points on the board, get a quick lead so they don't have to throw. Maybe they can kill a little bit of a clock, and with that running game. But it's not realistic, and it's not even fair to have him try to throw the ball 60 times against Baltimore.
When do you think this season went off the rails for the Eagles? At what point would you pick out as the point where it went awry?
Boy, that's a hard one. I'm going to say maybe they seemed like they were really in it until the Green Bay game. Even Seattle, I guess you could probably throw that one away because they were in Seattle and, everybody struggles there. But they seemed like they were still in the playoff race. Everybody had high expectations for that Green Bay game because Jeremiah Trotter and Maurice were going to the Hall of Fame. They were dressed in their all-black uniforms. The crowd was really into it. They hadn't lost a game at home yet. And, it seemed like the optimism was like, okay, now if we can just beat the Packers, we can go on a little run here, get into a wild card spot and go from there. But the fact that the Packers, who were also beat up, even worse than, or maybe as worse as bad as the Eagles are, the fact that they dominated that game, I think that's kind of what took all the sails took all the wind out of the Eagles' sails, and even the fans too. There were a lot of empty seats last week against Washington, which I was surprised to see. But I think I was looking back, I think it was probably the Packers game because up to that point, even in their losses, they were really in most of the games. Play or two here or there. Yeah, they might have been able to pull out a win. So I'm going to say that Green Bay game is the one that really kind of ruined the season for them.
Dave, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, there's always, talk about whether Doug Pederson is learning, is developing as a head coach. If he's, there's been questions about him. But on the defensive side, what do you make of Jim Schwartz's job this season? How has he done with what he's had to work with?
That's another tough question. I mean, I don't think that the defense as a whole has played very well, and a lot of that obviously falls on his shoulders. But then again, if you look at the problems they've had with injuries and stuff, especially in the secondary with Leonard McKelvin and a couple other guys, I can't figure out why he insists on trying to generate pressure with the front four because it obviously isn't working. But I guess his secondary is so bad maybe that he feels like he can't blitz because that's going to expose his secondary even more. But by the same token, you don't get to the quarterback. That leaves him all day to pick you guys apart. So he's kind of like caught in the middle there where he doesn't quite know what to do to stop the bleeding, it seems like. They haven't been playing like horrible bad, but the defense, especially after getting off to such a strong start, they've definitely been a major disappointment over the second half of the season.
They obviously have a lot of needs on this team as they move forward and get into the offseason in about 3 to 4 weeks here. Defensively, where do you see their needs?
Pick a spot now. Let's see. No, I would say the front line still is pretty solid. I think Fletcher Cox has been a major disappointment, but he's still a pretty good player. Brandon Graham has shown himself to be a pretty solid all-around player as well. So I think if you could probably look at maybe outside linebacker and corner. definitely will be the two weak spots. Leonis McKelvin, and in his defense, he's been playing with a hamstring injury most of the season, but they still don't have the answer there. I think Jalen Mills has some potential. I've liked what I've seen of him to this point, but they need another guy to pair with him, and we actually need two more guys. So I would say safety and outside linebacker. Michael Kendricks has been a huge disappointment. I haven't been real all that impressed with Nigel Bradham, to be honest with you, either, so I think they could use an upgrade at that position too.
Dave, do you blame the Eagles' lack of talent or Pederson's decision-making more for the Eagles' struggles this season?
Geez, Pete, you're really putting the pressure on me here.
Well, you're our guy.
Oh, thank you. One of them, anyway. Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. I'll say 50-50. I'm going to say like the overall lack of success this year is probably due to their lack of talent. Howie made some questionable decisions to try and upgrade some certain positions that didn't seem to work out, and especially like free agency, and he gave contracts to guys who haven't come close to fulfilling them. So I'm going to put a lot of it on Howie Roseman and just the overall lack of talent. But then again, Doug has had his problems too as far as play calling, game clock management, use of challenges, use of timeouts. So I think he kind of has I think there's a lot of that responsibility on him too. There were times where they were, in contention and seemed capable of pulling out wins, but he made some crucial call like going for 4th and 1 or not going or trying to run to the outside or not. So I think both segments probably share the blame equally.
A couple minutes ago, Scott asked you about some of the defensive guys. I want to ask you about an offensive guy. In your mind, who is Zach Ertz? Is he the guy who makes 10 catches versus Washington once a year, or is it Doug who doesn't get him involved enough? Or is it time to concede that maybe Zach Ertz is just an average player?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to give him a pass only because of the fact that he had such a pretty good rapport with Sam Bradford, and they seem to be they spent a lot of time in the off season working together out in California over 4th of July weekend. They even took a trip to Bradford's home in Oklahoma to try and get on the same page even more. They had formed a pretty good chemistry, but then all of a sudden Wentz gets thrown in there 8 days before the season starts without having taken a single rep with the starters, and for whatever reason he just didn't seem to develop that chemistry, if you will, with Zach until recently. So I'm gonna give Zach a pass only because he didn't seem like he had a whole lot of time to work with Carson.
Dave, as you look ahead here in the last 3 weeks, as you said, their playoff hopes are virtually non-existent, like 5 million to 1 here. So, what what do you make of what we're going to see? What kind of product are we going to see on the field? Do you see these guys? I mean, they came out and, in my opinion, played probably with their most effort that we've seen all season on Sunday. Will we see that again, or is this going to start turning into more of just kind of playing out the string?
Well, if they know what's good for them, they'll keep it up because there's jobs to be won and lost here down the stretch. You're not just playing for the rest of this season, but if you want to stick around, you better put forth the effort in these next 3 games, or because whenever a new coach comes in, there's a certain amount of turnover, but it seems like that second year too is when they kind of weed out even more of the guys that they don't think fit, or even physically on the field or off the field, and then start to get guys that fit their own mold. So if you want to play for Doug Pederson next year, you better put forth the effort these next 3 games. Whether they will or not, I'm not real sure. I mean, I got the sense that because they knew that Chip Kelly was gone, towards the end of the year, even that far before the last game, I think that maybe like they maybe didn't give their full effort. Maybe I'm trying to be polite here, but I think this next 3 weeks, I think you'll see them play with the same energy and enthusiasm. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think from a personal standpoint, if I'm a player, I want to do that if I want to stick around.
Pete and I were talking about this earlier in the show. The team practiced, I believe, inside today. Do you know why they did that when it seemed like the weather was okay enough to be outside?
Yeah, I'm not real sure because it's going to be even worse on Sunday. So the only thing I can think of was maybe because of the noise factor that I heard them like blaring music inside during practice, and maybe they think the Ravens. Maybe they think M&T Stadium's one of the latter places. Other than that, I don't know. Maybe the field's a little damp. I'm not sure. But, yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. We were all talking about it. It didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense that they'd be inside today. But I guess he has his reasons.
Real quick, I just saw this flash up. The Cardinals have released Michael Floyd. Of course, he's got a DUI he's coming off of. Do you see the Eagles maybe having any shot at giving him a reprieve and possibly trying to pick him up?
At this point, no. No, I think they're going to go with whatever they got now. Well, they did sign a couple guys only because a couple guys got placed on IR, but I would think Mr. Floyd's probably going to have to wait till next season to get back in the league. I mean, there's always the chance that the Eagles will take a flyer on him, then, but as of right now, I don't think so.
Dave Weinberg with the Press of Atlantic City joining us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I'll close with this one, Dave. What unit underperformed for you that caused the team to be 5-8? Which unit in your mind, if they had been full impact, would have increased that record?
By unit, do you mean offense and defense, or do you mean offensive line or linebackers? I'm not quite sure.
I would say offense and defense, sure.
Which underperformed?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Gosh, I'll go offense. The wide receivers were just god awful most of the year. Running backs you really couldn't count on. Lane Johnson getting suspended certainly didn't help the offensive line. Wentz was going through some growing pains that I still maintain that he didn't have to go through. I never thought they should have traded Sam Bradford, and I'll continue to maintain that. So I'm going to say offense. I think if they had kept all their pieces in place, if they had been able to avoid injury, the receivers, I'm going to say they were the biggest disappointment, mainly because of the receivers, because they couldn't find anybody that could catch the ball on a reliable basis.
Well, which did you have higher expectations for, the D line or the running back position?
Higher expectations?
Mm-hmm.
You mean going forward?
Yeah.
Defensive line, I think, probably has the potential to really succeed. They got to get a little bit more production out of their defensive ends, other than Brandon Graham, though. I mean, Vinny Curry didn't come close to living up to his contract this year. I thought he was a major disappointment. Connor Barwin seems to be, I don't know if he's playing out of position because he's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker or what, but I don't think he's quite performing up to his capabilities either. But still, I do think that the interior of the defensive line has a lot of talent there with Logan and Cox. I really like Brandon Graham. I think he's been their best defensive player this year. So going forward, I think there's probably more potential there.
Well, you always bring it 100%. We appreciate you for doing that. It's Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. He joins us each Wednesday for Weinberg Wednesday to catch up on the Eagles. You can follow him at Press AC Weinberg. Dave, thank you so much. I'll continue to read your column in the hard copy of the newspaper that I subscribe to, pal.
Oh, you're one of the few, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.